A very warm welcome to all of you to the India Construction Week 2020. I would like to begin by thanking CIDC for giving me this wonderful opportunity to present to you a way forward for the sector, its revival, and the people involved with it in COVID times. The focus of my presentation is going to be on skilling as an intervention. Before I proceed further, I would like to take a few minutes to introduce my organization, SEED. SEED is a social venture firm that has been working in the development sector for over a decade now. We have worked across the length and breadth of the country and have been blessed with the opportunity of learning the nuances of how people work at the field and at the grassroots levels. With that as the background, let us look at a few facts and figures. What is the need for this kind of an intervention in a sector which in our country is already quite mature? Well, more than 80% of the employed in building and the construction sector are minimally skilled force. 64.8% of India's population would be in the working age of 15 to 64 years. The current capacity of the skill development programs is 3.1 million. India has set itself a target of skilling more than 500 million people by 2022. The construction industry itself is growing at an excess of 16% per annum and was likely to reach a 50,000 crore billion by the end of the 12th five-year plan. It is estimated that about 310 lakh workers are working in the construction sector, of which 79% are unskilled. What is the impact of such a large population of unskilled and underskilled workforce within a sector that is already stressed? It leads to substandard work, delay in delivery of project, and wastage of raw materials. Having said that, another set of challenges which faces the construction workers is lack of awareness, testing and recognition of their skills, focus on practical training, and with the advent of COVID now, more than ever, integration of new technologies. To address this challenge, the importance of a multi-sectoral, a multi-partner, and a multi-institutional approach has never been more critical. The three key partners in this would be, of course, the government, who has in the last couple of months launched several programs to enable not only the sector but also focusing on skill and concentrating on the workforce which holds the sector together. The corporates, who as part of their CSR initiatives are focusing on how to aid the government programs further through their contributions, and also while they are faced with the challenge as well, how to enable their workforce to cope with this crisis. Then there are implementing agencies, social sector organizations, social impact organizations who are the ears to the ground, the last mile on the ground who actually would be implementing all these programs. While we would discuss the challenges and the way forward, what are some of the challenges that the sector is facing at this moment? First, while we say skilling is very important, mobilizing candidates post migration due to COVID 19 is a major challenge. Then, there are institutions which have the intent, have the vision, but may lack institutional capacity with increased requirements to meet training targets in the next quarters. Limited availability of IT infrastructure for conducting online training. As we know, contact training is becoming increasingly more difficult, and in the new normal, IT is the way to go. Building capacity around that is another challenge that the skill sector faces. Reduced debt serviceability of skill service providers, expediting disbursements to relevant stakeholders to ensure liquidity and continuity in the system, the lack of employment and apprenticeship opportunities due to the deferment of recruitment by the industry are some of the other challenges. But it's not all bleak out there, because all of us, while we work together, will also find solutions together. The pandemic not only poses a threat to the health and lives of millions around the world, but also paves the way for systemic social and economic turmoil. The disruptions are affecting the workforce across sectors. While people in critical sectors such as healthcare are overburdened with work, others in sectors such as construction, tourism, hospitality are all struggling to earn their livelihood. The manpower engaged across various sectors is exposed to a different set of challenges under the current circumstances, and the recovery path for each sector is going to be a different one whenever life returns to normal, or the new normal as we call it. All this requires a more tailored counter approach. This is why I feel our country's skill development ecosystem is the backbone of tomorrow's workforce. It not only provides for vocational trainings, but also assures that the same is translated into meaningful employment through the demand supply mapping of skill sets across sectors. With multi sector partners becoming the way forward, how do we leverage these partnerships to achieve immediate results and ensure strengthened capacity in the long term? The first thing first, upskilling of students to respond to COVID 19. This requires a major relook at curriculum and integration of more and more IT related interventions, which would enable them to pick up skills while not having contact classes as a mandate. Second, to fast track assessments to respond to COVID 19. A key role here is being played already by the Directorate General of Training, the NSDC, state skill development missions, sector skill councils, and assessment agencies. This will help the participants not only upgrade their skills faster, but the response to market and the response to demand in terms of turnaround of availability of manpower will also be hastened. The third aspect which I would like to stress on would be the bandwidth light teaching aids. Teaching aids which require a simple IT interface so as not to intimidate the end user. The IT technology which smaller social sector organizations can implement immediately without too much of an out of pocket expenditure on their part will help the entire process function more efficiently. Next, the online industry connect and skilling management tools, where we look at online mentoring, ability of the industry to reach out to participants and beneficiaries directly, online interviews, as well as hand holding some of these beneficiaries over a longer period of time. All this would go a long way in enabling the sector to revive faster, as well as preparing the new workforce for the challenges that lay ahead. Having explored and outlined most of the challenges that face us, it's time to elucidate on the solutions. The solutions can be divided into two folds. One is relooking at the courses that we offer, not only at the point of entry, but looking at the migration of labor which has happened. We have an enormous amount of trainers who have been in the sector for a period of time, now available to us right down to the grassroots, whose skills we can utilize to train further beneficiaries faster and quicker, because they have had the opportunity to work in the sector, get practical knowledge, and probably have faced some of the challenges which their contemporaries might face. In my opinion, some of the courses that we can look to offer would be, in terms of reskilling and upskilling, could be painting, tunnel boring machines with the number of projects on highways, etc. coming up, bar bending, tiling, masonry, so on and so forth. To aid all of this, and also to get a higher impact, we would also need to look at the financial planning for large-scale skilling initiatives. For example, there are innumerable amount of government programs that have been launched to help beneficiaries not only in the construction sector but trainees who are now wanting to be trained, reskilled, and be a part of the workforce. The awareness creation around these programs is something that we can all work together, because though the projects have been launched and the government is doing its best, but the private sector can also come in and help spread the message faster and wider. Funding assistance for skill business to inject liquidity into the skills ecosystem, to support skill service providers and ensure continuity of skilling initiatives is another important aspect. Further, a fund for digital interventions. For example, funding support for development of robust digital models across the value chain, that is, training, delivery, assessment, and placement, will enable organizations, small and big, to adapt faster, train their people faster so as to have a quicker outreach. Last but not the least, budgeting for MSDE to expedite planned initiative, ensuring fund availability and access for launching planned activities is another important aspect, where directives from Government of India on budget utilization, the private sector putting in their contribution through their CSR funding, quicker and more robust implementation of the development schemes which are already in place is something which will help us all overcome the current situation. It is at inflection points like this where we are forced to think, rethink, re-energize and regroup. The construction industry today wants each one of us to think out of the box, contribute not only in terms of money, but in terms of intellect, in terms of new ideas that can set the sector ablaze again. With that,